sons of the light, forming in numbers and might. Keep the truth close inside, and woman.
Dr. Robert Selig, and welcome to my video series. And today we're going to give you a new perspective on breast cancer, and we're going to look at the industry behind this epidemic, as well as giving you natural approaches to how we can deal with the plague of our day, which is cancer, and specifically breast cancer. So please read my disclaimer, because this video is for educational purposes only. So read it in its entirety. Now, first I want to start about painting the picture of this American Cancer Society. This is the authority on cancer. So as cancer goes, it's all dictated by this society, and we need to look at who is funding this beast, because once we start to get a clearer picture of the money behind this industry, then we can start making more intelligent decisions on what we're going to do. So I don't want to be insensitive to someone who is, going through a cancer at the moment, because you do need to be informed, because you're going to be inundated with fear-based solutions, and it's going to revolve around chemotherapy, toxic drug therapy, surgery. You need to know what you're in for. You need to know your choices. You need to know the industry funding these studies. So the American Cancer Society is the world's most profitable organization on the planet. In 2008, on their asset sheets, they had $1.5 billion in assets. Now that's pretty good for a non-profitable organization, don't you think so? $1.5 billion. In fact, their profits go to 16% of their profits go to helping patients, which is great. Most of those patients are usually the very poor, the downtrodden, the ones really struggling. And they'll give them money to help pay for food, to get them to their transportation, to get them to the hospital, to get them to their doctors, help them to pay for the medication. So that 16% of the funds goes to helping the patients. Not bad, and that's at the high level, that 16%. Depends on what city you live in. It's anywhere from as low as 11 to 16%. But that means that most of the money, 84%, is going to overhead. That overhead is going to paying the salaries, and some of the CEOs are making well into the six figures. It's going to promos and marketing of their protocols, of their drug therapies, of how they treat surgery. So if I was to bring to the American Cancer Society anything natural, it would be rejected, because it's not a patented pharmaceutical. And so they don't want anything to do with anything natural. They will reject it on a dime. And so there's, there is this hypocrisy within this business, because it's based on selling you stuff that doesn't work. And you need to know this, because look at the batting average, whether it's chemo, whether it's, tamoxifen, whether it's whatever their drug therapy of choice is, you need to look at the statistical batting average of their cure rates. It's really horrific, and we keep buying into this. So we got to start understanding who we're up against. So most people are unaware that the Breast Cancer Awareness Month idea was conceived and orchestrated and paid for by the British chemical company Imperial Chemical Industries. ICI is the brainchild behind Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as well as they're the brainchild behind Get Your Mammogram. October 17th, I believe, is your National Mammogram Day. So This is the company. Remember, this is a company that's one of the main purveyors of some of the worst carcinogenic chemicals on planet Earth. And so they're the brainchild behind, we're going to treat the cancer, we're going to bring cancer awareness, you know, with leaving out a small little fact that their chemicals are causing the cancer. So this is what I mean by we got to look at these organizations, these, you know, globalist international businesses, because we have to put the spotlight on them. You know, they're blaming the sun causes cancer. It's your genetics causes cancer. Now, if you're lathered with chemicals on your skin that they're selling you, you may have a negative reaction to the sun. If you're taking a lot of the pharmaceuticals, you may have a negative reaction to the sun. But we got to remember, the sun is the most life-giving energy in our universe. So we absolutely need the sun energy. So the sun isn't the enemy. It's the chemicals interacting with the sun becomes the enemy. Yes, we all have a genetic predisposition to this or to that, but we have to understand that genetics has to be expressed. Genetics is expressed through the epigenetics, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So just understanding that, you know, this chemical industry is the brainchild behind, you know, the American Cancer Society. It's the main funder of American Cancer Society. So put it into perspective, you know, put on your bullshit detectors and have a honest view of who's running the show. It's the fox guarding the hen house. So the American subsidiary of ICI is AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca is the third largest source of cancer-causing pollution in the United States. You know, this multi-billion-dollar company itself is in the business of manufacturing and selling synthetic chemicals and is one of the world's largest producers of chlorine. They're using chlorine in the herbicides, insecticides, and these organochlorines we know are linked to breast cancer. This is a known fact. The science is there, the reports are there, and we'll point that out a little bit. Also, AstraZeneca is not only tamoxifen, you know, the cancer drug, they gave you Crestor, the cholesterol-lowering drug. So when you suppress cholesterol, cholesterol's a fat, most of the cancer-causing chemicals are lipophilic. They love fat. So we're suppressing the fat, and then these cancer lipophilic drugs are going to where the fat should be. And so these Crestors, you start inhibiting the hormones, because cholesterol is needed for all hormone synthesis. Your estrogens, your progesterones, your testosterones, your DHEA. So when we start inhibiting this, you're going to see that these chemicals are going to start coming in because you're not having the right fats, the right cholesterol in you, and this will attract the more pernicious lipophilic carcinogenic chemicals to go right to the tissue, the glands, and the organs. So they made your Crestor, which is one of the worst drugs ever peddled in human history, and it won't be long before they tie that into you know, the flagrant foul of using this drug to suppress cholesterol. Every cell in your body needs cholesterol. Every steroid hormone needs cholesterol. So as we suppress this, this creates a real problem in human health. So let's look at this company for what they're manufacturing and the drugs that they're producing. So they produce tamoxifen, and in May 2000, tamoxifen was listed as a known human carcinogen by the National Toxicology Program of the United States. So there you have it, you know, the mutant pink elephant staring you in the face. the 1,000-pound gorilla saying, hey, wait a minute, we'll give you tamoxifen, we may suppress the breast cancer to only get ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, stomach cancers, colorectal cancers, as well as blood clots and strokes, because tamoxifen is one of the most carcinogenic liver drugs known to mankind. So it may inhibit, the estrogen receptor site in the breast to only show itself later with the other forms of cancer. So we need to look at this with more of a sophisticated eye. We need to have more scrutiny. We need to have a little bit more skepticism as we're looking at who's behind the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, looking who's behind, the American Cancer Society, which dictates how we treat cancer. So I can't treat cancer because I'll go to jail for saying I have a cure for cancer. When we look at this, we're going to see that the cancer epidemic has, what do we have? A war on cancer in the 1970s. Richard Nixon waged the war that we're going to wipe out cancer. Cancer isn't to be wiped out. Cancer is to be understood. The war on cancer has failed miserably, just like the war on obesity, the war on drugs, the war on cancer has been a horrible attempt of looking at our epidemics in this world. So we got to see, the sheep's in wolves clothing. And so as we're not getting a real honest view of what's behind these epidemics, because behind these epidemics is big money, big global elitist corporation with government ties, with owning the studies to prove, we can give you tamoxifen, block the estrogen receptor, you don't get breast cancer. But then they leave out the other half of the truth, which is, but you'll get ovarian, liver, uterine, stomach cancers, and things of that nature. So let's shed the light on them and let's expose the lie for what it is. And let's see half truth, half lie. So they give you the truth, let's expose the lie. So state and federal agencies sued ICI and 7 other multinational companies in 1990, alleging that it dumped DDT and PCB, both banned in the United States since the 70s, in Los Angeles and Long Beach harbors. So here you have it. The companies that are giving you the cure for cancer, giving you the drug therapies for cancer, telling you how to treat your cancer, are dumping some of the most horrific chemicals into our water supply, which is getting into the things that we are consuming. Again, another flagrant foul, another, check mark that we have to start seeing. And I believe that they settled out of court, in anywhere from 50 to 100 million that these companies had to pay. But, that's a slap on the wrist. Remember, they're making billions of dollars, so 100 million is not a big deal. Yeah, maybe it's someone's bonus gone for the day, but it's really, it's so nefarious when we start peeling the onion, discovering who's behind this American Cancer Society, who's behind the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, who's funding these corporations. And once we start to really get a bird's eye view, then we're going to make better decisions. Then we're going to see that, wait a minute, we've been lied to. Let's reverse engineer this. Let's understand how these chemicals are truly causing us to express the mutant gene. So here we have, Dr. Samuel Epstein. This is, this is a heavy hitter. This is a highly credentialed man working for, the University of Illinois School of Public Health. And he wrote this article, how the American Cancer Society is more interested and making money than saving lives. And he wrote in this article, you've got a company that's a spin-off of one of the world's biggest manufacturers of carcinogenic chemicals. They got control of breast cancer treatment. They've got control of chemo prevention studies, so they're manipulating the studies to fit into their paradigm. And now they have control of cancer treatments in 11 centers throughout 11 major cities in the United States, which are clearly going to be prescribing the drugs they manufacture. Houston, this looks like a conflict of interest. So again, let's put the spotlight on who's behind this monster and who's behind this, this cancer epidemic. Now, if we look at the history of cancer, we're going to see 100 years ago it was very rare. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was probably 1 in 20,000. I know in some cultures that cancer, they didn't even have a name for cancer because it never happened. So it was approximately 1 in 20,000. About 100 years ago you would get cancer. Right now it's 1 out of 2. Boy, 1 out of 2. Now, it's also the second leading cause of death in the United States. So heart disease is number 1, cancer is number 2. But cancer, it probably within the next 3 to 5 years, will be the number 1 killer in the Western world. So here we have 2 diseases which are associated with the heart. The heart disease directly affects the heart. Cancer spares the heart. The only organ cancer doesn't attack is the heart. So one is telling us directly it's a heart theme. One is telling us it's an unconscious heart theme. And we're forgetting how disconnected we are from the earth, how disconnected we are from the ecosystems, from the rivers that flow on our planet are the rivers that flow in you, and we have polluted every inch of our body as we have polluted every inch of this planet. And so cancer is going to compel you, and it's going to really make you look at this disease with a different mentality. And once we start to understand this disease, that it really is a heart-centered disease. And in this heart-centered disease, where have we divorced ourselves from nature? Where have we cut ourselves off? Where have we bought into this lie? So as we start to mature and we let go of this naive attitude, believing that big pharma, big medicine is going to save the day, win the war on cancer, just like they've won every other war, we're going to raise our vibration, we're going to educate ourselves, and we're going to come back to what really works. Got to get healthy, got to clean up the body. Got to start avoiding all this toxic sludge, because that is behind the genetic expression of these mutant genes. So what are some of the causes specific to breast cancer? Some of the main causes, again, toxicity. We got to really understand over the last 100 years since the Industrial Revolution, we have unleashed the beast. We have polluted every corner, every inch of this planet, whether it's in the water, the air we breathe, the food, it's in the earth. So this toxic sludge has accumulated to epic proportions, causing the plague of our day. Now, behind the toxicity, we also have to look at our responsibility in this, our own toxic emotions. And especially with breast cancer, you're going to see a huge emotional component to this disease. So that's something that has to be figured into the equation. Infections, many doctors have gone blue in the face exposing that, Dr. Cimicini, an Italian doctor, in all of his research showed that this cancer is a fungus. Dr. Hedla Clark showed that it's also a parasite infestation. Dr. Royal Rife saw that it was a virus. So these microorganisms are attracted to this acidic environment. These organisms are, as the body creates acids, that creates the microorganisms to come in to start breaking down these acids. So our environment that we're creating, this acidity, is creating these infections. And these infections are actually doing a job. It's an adaptation. It's a cellular adaptation to a stress, to a chemical toxic stress. And that's where we have to understand the infection component to this, because part of getting healthy is dealing with these infections. To deal with these infections, we got to change the terrain. We got to change the ecosystem. False diagnoses is a very common reason why we have this epidemic of cancer. So we're promoting, get your yearly mammogram. So we do a lot of these screenings. So many false negative results with these mammograms. And so this is, if you're going to have cancer, the best place to have cancer would be in the lymph, because the lymph doesn't have a direct blood supply, so it's the slowest growing. However, if you get breast cancer, they're going to tell you cut it out today. That's not true. That's really a lie. You do have time. By the time that they even detect your breast cancer, it's been percolating in you for at least 10 years. A mammogram, we know the science behind this. So if they detect it on a mammogram, you can bet the house that cancer's been growing in you for 10 years. And so maybe it started with the bad periods. Maybe it started with the birth control. Maybe it was a result of, all the other suppressive medications that we took, as we didn't deal with it, as we became more acidic, more toxic, shutting down the liver, shutting down the lymph, and we can't get the garbage out. So we got to be really careful with these false diagnoses and the fear-based mechanism. And again, when you get that deadly diagnosis, it's the fear that they're injecting into you. Your body has been growing that cancerous tumor for decades. And so there's no need to, unless it's in the blood, that's a different story. But if it's in the breast, in the lymph, that's slow growing. It's been happening for quite some time. So there's no need to panic. What you need to do is change. And that requires a knowledge of your biochemistry, of organs and glands, of how the body heals, of natural laws of medicine. And so this is how we're going to really deal with this epidemic, because it is the plague of our age. Mammograms, another cause of cancer. We know that X-rays are, ionizing radiation causes cancer. That's a no-brainer. An X-ray, a mammogram is 1,000 times worse than an X-ray. So when you're in your dentist office and he's got the lead plate on your whole body, they got the lead plate hopefully on your thyroid, because they have to block, the radiation. So the mammogram is 1,000 times worse than the X-ray. So think about that, because we're subjecting the breast to that ionizing radiation directly into that very sensitive tissue. They're giving us tamoxifen, which is a rip-roaring liver toxin. It's one of the worst. Chemotherapy, if you do the history, medical history is interesting. So when you really understand medical history, you're going to see, the flagrant abuse of the protocols that they've had, from electric shock therapy to lobotomies to mercury, treating mercury for syphilis and gonorrhea. So if you didn't die of the syphilis, you died of the mercury poisoning. The horror, the flagrant, indiscriminate use of antibiotics and steroids, all these things in medical history, it's going to start painting a picture. And it won't be long before we see the mammograms will be an antiquated, outdated therapy. Chemotherapy will also be shelved because the science is there. It's just like with big tobacco. in the natural community, we went blue in the face for 40, 50 years, warning the AMA, warning, all the big prestigious ones, saying, oh, it's good for you, it's not bad, it's not dangerous. 40, 50 years, we were pointing out how deleterious that tobacco was to human health. And again, it got swept under the carpet, and eventually the truth came out. Same thing's going to happen with cancer. It's just a matter of time. So the awakening has to happen. Again, turning the spotlight on these industries, promoting their therapies, promoting their drugs, has to happen. And so it takes courage, it takes knowledge, it takes wisdom, but you got to look at it from a point of view. Who are you going to trust? Man in science or God in nature? God in nature is hopefully where you're going to start leaning towards, because man in science is corrupt. It's, follow the money trails, look at the corporations, look at these industries behind these organizations, and tell me they don't have a tainted history. Tell me that, they have a clean bill of health. We have to start seeing, this moral perspective to these corporations, because again, these corporations have an alliance to their shareholders, and they do not have an alliance to you. Who's going to heal you? The one that created you is the one that's going to heal you. So what we do in natural medicine, we help guide you. We understand a little bit more about the organs. We understand about the biochemistry, about the nutrition. So we come in with more plans to help you so you can deal with this plague of our day. So what alters normal DNA, and how do normal cells become persistent mutant cells which grow tumors? Well, it's those 60,000 chemicals, and that's a conservative estimate. There's probably up to 70 to 80,000 chemicals, of which only 5% have actually been tested, but they've been tested in isolation, not combined with the multitude of different chemicals. So this is how they go under the radar, and they get passed, and they pass government inspections, they pass, all these health inspections, but you don't want mercury in you. You don't want PCBs and all these chemicals and synthetics and organochlorides in you. They disrupt and destroy normal biochemistry. So the list is endless, and again, this is the short list of what alters the DNA, and from the fluoridation of the water, that to me that's one of the worst assaults on human history, is dropping a drug into our water systems. We know that water is the spirit of life. We know, even in the Bible it says God put his spirit into the waters. So now we take a caustic chemical and we fluoridate the waters. We're destroying the spirit. We're destroying the most God-giving energy, which is water. Because when you drink water, within minutes it becomes your blood. Blood is the juice of life, and when we're fluoridating our water, our blood becomes tainted, creating, again, epidemics of chronicity, and the hallmark of the chronic diseases is cancer. That's the crowning achievement of chronicity, is cancer, is the plague of our day. And so let's look at all these things, the pesticide. Who's behind the pesticides? Who's behind the chlorines? Who's behind, tobacco, prescription drugs, genetically modified foods? Study these companies. Study them without fear, without, the blame game, because we have become complicit, within our silence. Our silence has led to our complicity, and so we're part of it because we're buying this, we're buying that. So once we understand who these, organizations are, we're going to avoid them like the plague, and we're going to come back to real solutions to these real problems. But again, this naive attitude, turning the blind eye, turning the deaf ear, marching for this, running for the cure, bringing good things to life. You know, GE with making the mammograms, DuPont making the mammograms. So let's start questioning these industries. So what is the breast gland? You know, when you look at the breast gland, 80% of it is fat. These carcinogenic chemicals love the fat. And so here we have breast, and these organochlorines, these xenoestrogens, the assault of these chemicals will go right into the breast tissue. It's almost like a reservoir for this toxic sludge. And so year after year it's accumulating. And what's important is, the breast is mostly, it's the lobules which make the milk, and it's the glands that secrete the milk. And so behind that, it's mostly 80% fat, and then there's some muscles, and so it's attached to the pectoralis major, but that's not the main muscle that's the player. It's the pec minor, because when the pec minor starts to tighten up, through the years, it contracts. That's what pulls your shoulder forward, and that's going to encroach upon the lymphatic supply. The lymph is so important because that's how you drain the garbage in here to get it out. Then the lymph will dump it into the gallbladder, dump it into the liver, dump it into the kidneys, dump it out through all the excretory organs. So the lymph is the garbage man. It's cleaning up the debris. And so we have to understand part of the strategies is moving lymph. Lymph doesn't move itself, so we need to employ strategies to move the lymph, because if we don't, this chemical toxicity will build up in the fat. Why do we have an entire country that's fat? It's because of this toxicity, these toxins, these estrogens, these, basically these fake estrogens, which are synthetic chemicals, hormone mimickers, imposters, which are causing this epidemic of obesity, epidemic of cancers. So let's start cleaning up, because that's really where the real solution is. It's not just coming in with the drug or just cutting it out. And again, I get it. There's times that you may have to cut out a tumor if it's encroaching on a blood supply or if it's so aggressive. So there is a time and place for that. But if we don't understand the root and how it grew, that's where we're behaving too naive, where we're not looking at the real reason why we have the cancer in the first place. So again, I'm not opposed to, at times we may need to do a surgical procedure. Great, thank God we got the great surgeons. But let's look at the why. Let's look at what grew the cancer. It just doesn't grow itself. There's things that need to be in place for this malignancy to grow and to metastasize. Here we have the lymph. Again, the lymph is so important in this structure. And if we don't move the lymph, because all your breast cells are bathing in what we call the extracellular matrix. That's the fluid that your cells are bathing in. And so the best analogy to think about is picture a grape as a cell. Take a bunch of grapes together, that we'll call that breast cells. Take that bunch of grapes, put it into a plastic bag, take that plastic bag, fill it with water, and that's your extracellular matrix. That's the fluid that's feeding your cells. Think of the fish tank analogy. When we see a fish tank with dirty water and the fish aren't doing so good, they're almost belly up, they're not thriving in their environment. What's the goal? You're just going to give them more superfoods, or are you going to clean the fish tank? You're going to hopefully clean the fish tank, and then you're going to see them thrive and revive. But that means that you detox, you clean the water. If we don't clean the extracellular matrix, the fluid that is nourishing your cells, That's why we got to understand the importance of detoxification. This is why we got to understand the importance of the lymphatic system, because the lymphatic system is draining the garbage in there. And so when we have stagnant lymph, we're not moving out the garbage. It's like, you know, the toilet bowl gets backed up, that toxic water in the toilet bowl will be all over your floor. That's what's happening in you. This is why we have a toxicity problem. You know, everything depends on a healthy cell. A healthy cell, this is your solar system. And so the solar system within is the solar system without. As above, so within. And so we look at our world today and we see, again, we're all complicit in this wholesale destruction of this planet. You know, we're purchasing, you know, the bad stuff, you know, maybe not even consciously knowing it. This is why we have to raise the bar, turn the light on them, and start becoming more diligent and more purposeful, and, you know, putting your money where your mouth is. And so that's what it takes. That's the, you know, and that's a heart center. And this is why cancer spares the heart, because it is letting you know unconsciously where we're behaving not in harmony with the laws of nature, where we are actually, you know, flagrant assaults against nature as we buy the products that are poisoning every tree, every plant, every waterway, everything. So let's change the paradigm. So a healthy cell, and a healthy cell needs the minerals, needs the vitamins, needs the extracellular matrix that delivers these things in. It needs a healthy cell membrane. So this is a living solar system. So let's start connecting that. Your cancer is when a cell goes mutant. It starts to replicate in an anaerobic environment. That anaerobic is a fermentation process. That fermentation process feeds off of the sugar, and so we're feeding it this processed garbage foods that we've been ingesting for the last 100 years since we got away from real farming practices. So again, this is the education. This is what they're not telling you in their pamphlets, in their brochures. So again, let's revisit this with intelligence. All cancers begin the same way, with a chronic stress. What's a chronic stress? Stress can be anything. It doesn't care. Stress doesn't delineate whether it's a mental, emotional stress, a chemical stress, a physical stress, an abusive stress. Stress affects the biochemistry the exact same way, causes aberrant mineral patterns, and within these aberrant mineral patterns over time, your body's going to have to adapt. So the chronic stress causes the chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the hallmark of every disease process in the human body. And as a result of this chronic inflammation, we have an adaptation to the cells. So the cells adapt to our stress, to our inflammation, and that's a protective mechanism to keep you going. However, if we don't deal with these adaptations to these stress, this chronic condition of toxicity and acidosis becomes the mutant cancer gene. So this is why, again, we have to tie this all in, because the health of the cells is dependent on its environment that it lives in to replicate healthy new cells. So in essence, the health of the cells is dependent upon its environment, just like the fish in the fish tank. Whoops. Okay. Time out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome back to my breast cancer video. Kind of in the first half, we were looking at, kind of the industry promoting its protocols, procedures, its therapies. And now I want to give you more of a natural perspective on how we're going to deal with breast cancer. So better strategies for screening. First, thermography. Every city in this country offers thermography, so find a place that does thermography, and it's there. You got to research it. Hair tissue mineral analysis. HTMA, I was going to show you, but I don't have one in front of me. The mineral matrix is so important because we got to understand that the minerals, when they say ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that's the minerals. We are made of minerals. It's what brings life to our carbon base. So we're going to look at the minerals very intensely, and we know in certain patterns on a hair tissue mineral analysis if you're going to be, trending towards cancer, trending towards infections. We get such a beautiful picture with HTMA where your health is at. And then we can come in with real nutrient blueprints to help address deficiencies and toxicities, as well as it tells us how toxic we are. So HTMA, we need to know how important the gut is because 80% of your immune system is your gut. It is your second brain, that gut-brain axis. So we want to see what infections we're plagued with. We want to see, fungus, parasite, whatever is going on. So a GI panel is a good test to look at. Hormones. We know that most of the cancers are estrogenic cancers, and so we got to be able to look at where the hormones are, because hormones are, they really are the longevity hormones when they're in balance. They give us life, so we can see where the DHEA is, where the progesterone, the testosterone, where the cortisol, where the aldosterone. So we get a real picture for, where the hormones are at, and we use the hair tissue, we use hormone panels with blood, saliva, urine, so we can get a real feel for your biochemistry. We can even do DNA testing for cancer. One of them is, the OncoBlot test, tests for certain cancers. There's other specific tests that just test for GI cancers. So we can start using other tests that aren't producing radiation or causing radiation and things like that. DNA, genetic profiling is interesting because here we have, we're going to be able to genetically profile every disease that we're going to be prone to. So if we have the BC, the BAC, or the BRCA1 or 2 gene, that's the Angelina gene. So if we see that you have this genetic marker, depending on, hetero or homo SNPs on this genetic marker, you can have anywhere from a 5 to 30, 35% increased risk for developing the breast cancer. And so they're already in the pipeline of having chemical strategies for this, surgical strategies for this. So believe me that this is on the horizon. This will be your future in medicine. Biotechnology is going to be the wave in medicine, but it's going to be profit motivated. It's going to be driven by the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm not against genetic profiling, because what they forget to tell you is if we genetically profile that you have a 35% chance of getting breast cancer, I'm going to tell you, these are the studies that they don't tell you, is that, well, if we do lymphatic drainage, coffee enemas, nutritional medicine, homeopathics, breast massage, now you have a 0 chance of developing breast cancer. So we got to start seeing how the epigenetics turns on or off the genetic markers. So this is kind of an important area. So I'm not against genetic profiling, but let's genetic profile and say, yeah, you have a weakness here. This is how we can strengthen that weakness without coming in with synthetic drugs that will mask, that may save your hair but kill your hair. So, we got to look at this because this is the future in medicine. This is really, we're going to be able to genetically code every disease under the sun. And then trust me, Blue Cross and Big Pharma and all the medical models, you know, they've got this working. They got the machine rolling with their, you know, create the problem, here's the reaction, here's the solution. Problem, reaction, solution. So I'm going to say, yeah, okay, we can do some genetic profiling so we can see where your deficits are, but now we're going to see how we can strengthen that so we don't express the mutant genetic gene. So let's kind of keep that into perspective, but absolutely we have many screening tools available to us today. So, you know, I want to just shortly mention the mineral matrix in this cancer epidemic because I've always said, you know, the backbone of my work is the minerals. It's understanding how important these minerals are because minerals truly are the spark plugs of life. Minerals are life. Minerals are involved in every action of human health, every component of physiology. You know, so the minerals are absolutely paramount to understanding, you know, this cancer epidemic. So again, a carcinogen. What's a carcinogen? It's from the chemicals, the metals, the radiation. So when we look at, you know, the profiles, we can see where the metals are at. We can see what degree of burnout you're in, how much catabolic state you're in. Because the chemicals, metals, and radiation are your carcinogens that will cause a normal cell to mutate, which we call a cancer cell. Now, when we have a cancer cell, the DNA auditing system is zinc and magnesium. Zinc is involved in so many enzymatic functions as well as magnesium. You know, just to make energy, you know, that ATP is 22 steps. 12 out of those 22 steps require magnesium. It's one nutrient we're looking at. The transfer, you know, RNA transferase is a zinc-dependent process. Every time that we're producing sugar, the byproduct of breaking down sugar is water and carbon dioxide. That water and carbon dioxide has to be dealt with. We just can't dump CO2 into the blood. That would be detrimental to human health. That CO2 has to be converted into a lesser acid called carbonic acid. That carbonic acid is a zinc-dependent process. Zinc is needed to turn on your plasma cells, all your white blood cells. So the DNA auditing system of a cell is zinc and magnesium. So then let's say we have a deficiency in zinc and magnesium because maybe we have a copper toxicity because copper will block zinc. Mercury will block zinc. Cadmium will block zinc. And so we start to see how these metals interfere with the mineral matrix. And so once the cancer cell kind of develops, then we have another backup defense system. So the body has many defense systems. So if it gets through, you know, this line, it has to get through this line, through this line. So your body's giving you ample opportunity to get things in order. So maybe now we developed the cancer cell because it made it through this line of, you know, the cancer made it past the DNA auditing system and developed the cancer cell. No problem. Now we have apoptosis. Apoptosis is what is going to detonate, blow up that cancer cell. However, apoptosis is dependent on a few different cycles and processes in the body. The first thing, you got to have healthy estrogen-progesterone ratios. Most of us, again, are estrogen dominant. You know, the estrogen dominant plague of our day keeps the copper high, lowers the progesterone. When you have low progesterone, you don't activate this gene. This gene goes into the mitochondria, and in the mitochondria, in the cytochrome C, you have copper and iron that is going to send the signal to blow up the cancer cell. But it depends on this gene activating the cytochrome C to release this detonation button to blow that up. Again, if we're estrogen dominant, we turn on this mutant gene and we turn off the apoptosis gene. This also depends on energy. Everything requires energy, so you got to have healthy energy, which is influencing this. And this is the importance where we see the copper and iron, the copper and DHEA. DHEA, your longevity hormone, that's a very potent steroidal hormone. Very anti-inflammatory. It's one of the most researched hormones in the body, but copper and DHEA are very antagonistic to each other because you need DHEAs kind of regulating the copper metabolism in the body. So if the adrenals are weak, the DHEA is going to be low, the copper becomes oxidized, it starts to behave like a heavy metal, and that wreaks havoc on this whole process. So let's say even if we lose the apoptosis because of, the copper dysregulation problem because of the estrogen dominance, then the cancer genes start to proliferate, start to, become more in abundance. But then we have another auditing system in here. And so this auditing system, kind of the immune patrolling system, so now, we've gone through this defense, we've broken through the apoptosis, but now we called on the Army, we called on the Marines, but now we're going to call on the Coast Guard, we're going to call on the Navy, we're going to call on the Air Force to bring reinforcements. And in the immune patrolling system, again, is zinc, iron, selenium, vitamin C, vitamin E, and vitamin D. But again, if we don't understand the mineral matrix, how copper, we're just looking at one nutrient, and again, copper is a nutrient mineral and also a toxic metal. It depends on its valence, and so when it oxidizes, it behaves like the Dr. Jekyll turns into the Mr. Hyde. So this is why we got to understand the energetics of these minerals. And so copper can block zinc, can block iron, can oxidize vitamin C, oxidize vitamin E. And so we get a feel for the mineral matrix because this is going to help prevent the spread of these malignancies. So we got many, many defense systems, but again, for cancer to spread, it needs a blood supply. Copper is so important in angiogenesis, the making of a blood supply. Very important. And so we have excess biounavailable copper. It's going to be laying down the foundations for building up blood supplies, and as the blood goes, the cancer goes, and then we get the malignancy, or maybe the breast cancer decides to metastasize to the bone, and that's due to this copper toxicity. So when we look at the mineral matrix, boy, we get to understand a lot, and this is why that's one of my foundational protocols, is balancing out the minerals. So the minerals truly are the spark plugs of life, and we got to integrate this into our protocols. Again, one of the most important things in dealing with breast cancer is lymph. We went over that the breasts are 80% fat, and the fat is going to drain its toxic debris into the lymph. If that lymph is compromised because maybe the muscles are tight, cramping it, maybe the lymph is just backed up because the liver and the gallbladder are backed up, so we have this backup, and the lymph won't drain because the sewage system is backed up, and then all of it's going back into the breast, and so then we're dumping more chemicals, because remember, these chemicals are lipophilic. The breasts are fat, 80% fat, and the chemicals are mostly fat. And so we're dumping it. So we got to move lymph. One of the greatest strategies that you need to employ, and I encourage ladies, you got to employ breast massage. I'm not here to tell you how to do the breast massage. I'm here to tell you why you need to do the breast massage. And when we're doing breast massage, it's got to be a fundamental. You got to move the lymph. The lymph does not move itself. You got to move the lymph. And breast massage, actually the ACS, the American Cancer Society, once upon a time recommended that women do breast massage. You know, they stopped with that protocol because that's a natural based protocol. That's not a patented cure to, you know, their industry. So when you start employing breast massage and you start to seek out, you know, I encourage you to find a female therapist that you trust and have that therapist work your breast so you start to understand how to move that lymph. It's so, so important. I would say it has to be strategy number one. Rebounding is good for moving the lymph, and so there's a lot of, you know, a lot of learning materials on the internet on how to do rebounding. You got to get the dairy out. It's very lymphatic, congesting. You got to remove the grains. You got to remove the sugars. You know, the grains in this country are corrupt to the bone. You know, we've destroyed the grains. The sugar in the last 100 years, we went from, I think, 10 pounds of sugar in the early 1900s to 100 pounds of sugar per person per year. So we got to deal with these sugars. We got to start really understanding how the sugar in the grains are congesting the lymph. You know, we have some like natural herbal protocols that have been around. Nurse Kasian, and so she developed this tea that she got from the Native Americans, basically from 4 plants, and she called it Essiac tea. You know, it's her name spelled backwards. And it was a blood cleanser. It was a lymph cleanser. So today we need more than just the tea, but we integrate many of the time tested therapies. We come in with the herbal strategies. We come in with the detoxification strategies. We come in with the nutritional dietary strategies, because this is what it takes. We got to up our game to deal with our plague of our age. And this is a plague. This is an epidemic. We have to see the beast for what it is. Minerals, iodine is amazing, you know, because these fibrocystic breasts, these, you know, the fibroids in the uterus, the cyst on the ovaries, iodine deficiencies. When we have an iodine deficiency, 10 to 1, probably 100 to 1, you have a selenium deficiency. 100 to 1, you got liver toxicity. 100 to 1 that you also have gut dysbiosis. Start connecting the whole body. You know, the body is a beautiful system, but medicine has compartmentalized the body into, you know, endocrinologists, cardiologists, gynecologists. So we broke the body down, and then we have this myopia of just looking at the one piece. We need to look at the whole piece because this whole thing works together. If you're not doing the liver cleanses, so you come in with the liver herbs, you know, we know the milk thistles, the turmeric, you know, the many liver herbs, but you got to work for the liver to move the biliary sludge. You got to hit the coffee enemas. You can upgrade your coffee enemas by putting essential oils in there, such as lemon and limonene, increases the glutathione. Many things to upgrade the coffee enema. Bottom line is, even if you don't upgrade your coffee enema, you got to hit that one hard, because your liver ducts are small little, you know, openings, and when they get clogged with the metals and the infections, nothing flows. We don't move the garbage out. So if the lymph is congested in the liver, it's not going to move the garbage out from the breast. So we got to start hitting the coffee enemas. Research the Gerson protocol. Research the coffee enemas. Again, I'm not here to tell you how to do the coffee enema. I'm here to tell you this is an amazing therapy to get the garbage out. all roads lead to the liver. The liver is the workhorse. We have a chance to really do a therapy that is life-saving. That is one of the greatest that we have. Very affordable therapy. You do have to buy good, organic, shade-grown coffee. You got to buy an enema bucket, but very minimal expense. And then you got to do, if you have cancer, you're doing 2 a day. If you're working on prevention of cancer, you're going to integrate the coffee enema as a daily practice. So, so maybe one day you do the coffee enema, one day you do the infrared sauna. So every day you're doing a detox strategy. Frankincense and other essential oils to rub on the breast, the alkaline diet. There's so many strategies. Homeopathy is absolutely critical to come in with the energy-based medicines, because we got to understand, energy, vibration, frequency. Before the physical manifestation, it starts as an energetic process. Saunas are absolutely essential. I could spend just the whole presentation just on sauna therapy. All I'm putting out there is incorporate the sauna therapy into your program. But your skin is your third kidney. That's kind of, think about your skin as your third kidney. So every toxin has to go out through the liver or the kidneys. So the kidneys can't take the hit with the toxic load. So we want that oil, that fat coming out, sweating out through the skin, because those infrared saunas penetrate that organ fat to release those toxic oils from you, and that takes the stress off the kidneys. So again, another amazing therapy. 98% of women with breast cancer had a root canal. So, don't get any more root canals. Start cleaning up these infections in our mouths. I was inundated with these infections early in my life. I think I had a cavity in every tooth in my mouth by the time I was in 3rd grade. So we got to clean the mouths. We got to use the baking soda, the hydrogen peroxide, the essential oils, the neem oils. We got to clean it. We got to really understand that. I think 8 teeth are connected to the breast. There's miles, networks of nerve fibers, to every organ in the body. This is why, the dentists are actually, if you have heart disease, they're going to be very leery of doing a procedure, knowing that they may cause a heart attack because of that, energetic connection pathway. So just know how important the mouth is in this, and we actually can use probiotics specific for the flora in the mouth. So many strategies to keep the mouth clean and to work on that. Bras. This is another flagrant foul, constricts the lymph. These wire bras. Women burn the bras. Find the more, user-friendly bras, the sports bras. There's a lot of information out there. Hormones, this estrogen dominance. There's many strategies for balancing out the hormones, but maca is just one good little superfood that we can add into our life, but we're going to start slow, build up. Lemons are amazing. It's been a part of Chinese medicine since, 10,000 years ago. So we know the importance of lemon. So start using lemons, lemon oils, just organic lemons, drinking daily, eating the lemon peels, getting the Chinese formulas with the lemon. So lemons are amazing. We need sunshine. I know that the ACS, the American Cancer Society, says stay out of the sun, it's causing cancer. If you buy into that, just, that's insanity. The sun is the greatest life-giving orb on the planet. We need the sun. So let's not avoid the sun. Let's respect the sun. Let's have a appreciation for the sun, and let's inoculate ourselves to the sun so we can start exposing our bodies in small increments, because the golden rule is never get burnt by the sun. So we got to build ourselves up, but we got to get off these chemicals, because sun and chemicals may have an adverse reaction. So we got to start understanding the importance of sunshine. We got to start taking the glasses off so we can start registering the rays entering through the pupil, by the light of the eye. So we got to start understand how important this sunshine is. Vitamin C, turmeric, there's so many herbal strategies. And again, it's not just using the great herbal strategies, it's you working for the herb. So yes, we'll come in with the right herbal mineral concoctions, because we got to remineralize the body, we got to put out the inflammation, we got to move the biliary sludge, we got to move the lymphatic sludge. So we have many, many things, in enzymes, and especially the pancreatic enzymes. I forgot the doctor's name, but he was the one that started with pancreatic enzymes in cancer and had amazing results. And this is what put enzymes on the map. And so we have digestive enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, pancreatic enzymes, which are phenomenal because we need these enzymes. They're involved in all chemical reactions in the body. And so we're going to incorporate getting the enzymes into us. Clays and muds. If you have cancer of the breast, you're going to mud the breast. You're going to, put on the mud, and you're going to go into the infrared sauna. You're going to start, because this is going to pull out the toxins. PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. This is a Tesla technology. We got to start, resetting the electromagnetic fields in the body, that influences sodium and potassium, so we can get goodies in, bad stuff out. Rife machine. Rife, can zap a vibration into the virus behind the cancer. So we have these technologies. Sleep is an absolute fundamental to any healing protocol. Body work, reflexology, the reflex points going to the breast, the reflex points going in the air to the breast. Gotta open up the spine. Again, when the spine starts to go, a kyphotic curvature, or the forward head and neck, we start cutting off the limbs. So we may need chiropractic, and we may need Rolfing, deep massage, Reiki, whatever. Find the therapy that works for you and mix and match, but you got to include the body work. We got to start drinking real water. We got to get off this processed water nonsense. I'm not going to talk too much about that, because I have gone blue in the face talking about water for many years. Medicinal mushrooms. In Chinese medicine, the most revered tonic herb is reishi mushroom. It's the queen. Reishi affects qi, jing, and shen. It is one of the most amazing medicinal mushrooms that we have. We have reishi, we have chaga, we have cordyceps, we have lion's manes. We got some amazing intelligence in the fungus community, the medicinal mushrooms. Medicinal mushrooms have been studied, have been researched, so we bring that into the mix. Apple cider vinegar, baking soda, HCl therapy, I'm going to talk a little bit more, mineralization. ASEA is an interesting new one that just came up in my radar recently. ASEA helps with redox molecule signaling. This is interesting because redox is something that we've been trying to figure out how to get a product for redox signaling, and that gives intelligence to the cell. So it's helping the minerals work. It's helping the detoxification work. It's helping naturally raise the glutathione. the superoxide dismutase, without coming in with glutathione or SOD. This is having it work internally in the body. So a lot of interesting research with ASEA. Got to take time off. Maybe you got to move. If you're living by, an expressway, a grid, with a lot of electromagnetic frequency, if you're in a poor area where the energy is off, move, relocate. Your health is just that important. You got to take time off. You got to check out, and if you have breast cancer or you have any cancer, take the time out, because you got to put the energy into healing, not to work, not to this. So take the time to heal, take the time off, move. And again, homeopathy has been around for hundreds of years, one of the greatest therapies that we have. Hydrochloric acid therapy, HCl therapy, in the trenches of World War I, before the antibiotic era, these pioneering doctors, Walter Bryant, Guy, MD, and other doctors, these were the heroes. This is before the big studies, the big pharma industry. These were doctors that were researchers, that were innovators, that wanted the cures, that wanted to look at the science without bias, without payoffs and bribes and this whole nonsense of this big industry. These were true medical doctors, pioneers, that saw the beauty in HCl therapy, hydrochloric acid. Now, I know if you have low HCl based on a hair tissue test, when I see the zinc low, the sodium low, the potassium low, you're not making stomach acid. So now we have the betaine HCl, which is a superb product, and I use Premier Research HCl. And HCl, the hydrogen ion is the light speed switch to turning on your macrophages. The HCl is going to help methylate, so when we methylate, we're going to be, suppressing the tumor gene or turning on the tumor suppressor gene or suppressing the oncogene. This is how important methylation is, and hydrochloric acid is just one of those valuable tools that we can start coming in with. This is a great strategy. So we can really up our game when we start to integrate and employ all these different strategies that we have. The time-tested strategies of old, the new technologies of today. So let's integrate all this, because again, healing is, the one that heals you, it's the one that created you, is the one that will heal you, but it's using what nature has given us. It's using the amazing technologies, the amazing medicinals that are there. And they're there, but we have to seek them out. And one thing I'll encourage, if you are, if you do have the dreadful diagnosis of cancer, I encourage you to get counsel, to get mentorship, to get guidance on this journey. Do not do it alone. You need professional help along the journey. If you're battling a chronic condition, get counsel, get mentorship, get guidance. Most of you haven't studied biochemistry at a deeper level. Most of you haven't studied, herbalism and mineral therapy and, the many, many therapies. So do not do it on your own. Take the time to really hire a competent doctor, a functional medicine practitioner, because this is a journey. It's an emotional journey, it's a physical journey. There's so many components to it, but the beautiful thing is our epidemic of cancer really is going to compel us and really make us look at this disease with a new fabric of light, because right now the industry's giving us the cures and the treatment protocols and all this. it really is the fox guarding the hen house. And so let's change this around. Let's come back to nature. Let's come back to the time-tested therapies and strategies that we have. Let's start to re-educate. You know, remember, the children did not perish for a lack of faith. They perish for a lack of knowledge. We need to educate. We need to really shine the light and start seeing, you know, the time-tested gems and pearls that are available to us, so we can reverse engineer this toxicity, reverse engineer this cancer plague, because it is our plague. And so that was part 2 of my cancer presentation on the breast, and it really is an epidemic. And so I implore you, I highly suggest that you start to educate yourself and start to seek out how you are going to heal yourself. And it takes a dedication, it takes a commitment, it takes change. The hardest thing, you know, about change is you leave your comfort zone, but that's where real progress is made, when we actually step out of our comfort zone and we have the courage and the faith and the fortitude to go forward, to start changing the dynamics of what conventional wisdom of the day has brought forth to us, because it's riddled with nonsense, it's riddled with deception, it's riddled with deceit and deception and profit-driven motives. So time to change it around. That was my presentation. I'll shut up now. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, get on my website, watch more stuff, talk to me, email me, phone call me, and thank you for your time. Again, Dr. Robert Selig at backtonaturalhealth.com, or my distant patient program is www.nevergetsick.net. Thank you for your time.
Your silence when it's rooted in compliance. To stand firm in loving defiance. Make Archer Alliance, give voice to the fire. Move people to the beat of the wind. Gather yourself and begin to dance the song until it ends. We are winners, champions of the light, forming in numbers and might. Keep the truth close in